Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Tom Herman talks about being 1-0. Texas Longhorns defeating the UTEP Miners 59-3, 1-0. Tran, we just got back from the game. I know we're both exhausted, but we're going to power through our just immediate thoughts getting back from the stadium. So I'm very excited to discuss this with you. I know we have a lot of good to touch on today. But before we get to that and get to Tran's thoughts, I do want to take the opportunity to promote Horns Illustrated. Their 2020 football preview came out, featuring Ricky Williams and Earl Campbell on the cover. And cool thing about it, it is a digital edition that you can download in your app through whatever app store, whether you're Apple or Android. And in that app store, the cool thing about it is it's a free edition. If you download it, we are actually in there with pundit picks in the middle of there. So look it up. Fanatic Perspective is featured. We're right alongside CBS affiliates, Orange Bloods, 24/7. It was really cool to work with Horns Illustrated on that, and just want to push that edition. So, Tran, before we got to the game, as you know, I'm really exhausted because I was at the beach all week for those who didn't see any of the content earlier this week. So I'm like riding on adrenaline right now and driving back from the beach, rushing to get to you so we could go to the game. I'm listening to ESPN radio, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, is Kansas State in trouble? Whoa, Iowa State's in trouble too? And then we hear them both lose. And so coming into DKR just kind of set the tone for me on where we were with the whole Big 12 thing and as we go into Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a huge, not technically shock for me, but it's a huge bump in the road for Texas, power of conference. Iowa State was supposed to be one of our ranked teams later on in the just for resume.
Well, they're ranked number 23 before game.
And then they got woodshedded, honestly. Kansas State, they just could not capitalize on normal mistakes that they cause their opponents to normally make. And it was really shocking. We don't like to really push conference prestige, but that when you lose to non-power conference teams and in the way that they lost today, it's not a good look.
It's not a good look. So that's where it goes to, okay, Oklahoma, who has, let's be honest, they've carried the bag for the conference the last 5 years. But what is Texas going to look like? Because with all that being said, I still feel as though no matter how strong or weak the conference is, we've seen this with Clemson and the ACC. The ACC has been terrible some years, and Clemson can carry the bag for the whole thing, get through, still have that benefit of the doubt. But you have to look the part. And I felt like just big macro perspective, Texas finally looked the part. Didn't matter who you're blind. I don't care if they were playing an FCS school today, to be honest with you. But just looking sharp, looking dominant, looking from an organizational standpoint, from a coaching perspective, from an effort standpoint, they checked a lot of boxes for us. And a lot of the things we talked about in our preview on Thursday, they followed to a T, starting with, we both said, hey, you need to have a 21-point first quarter. We'll cut you some slack with the procedural penalties and some of the COVID rust, not having a spring. Totally get that. It is different to me firing off the ball in a game versus in practice, things of that sort, or even in a scrimmage. But overcome those things. And to me, Texas was right there right off the bat, starting, and this is where I want to go to you, Tran, starting with Josh Moore, first play of the game, 78-yard touchdown to the house, right? And just from there, where was the energy at, man?
So the energy for the team was just off the charts, because then it carried over to the defense. I don't think they had a first down until the second quarter, when they busted off 3 first downs in a row, and then I think they missed a field goal. But the defense owned the line of scrimmage, which we were extremely proud of. The fact that they only had 19 yards all the way up to 4 minutes left in the game. it just shows the effort that the our defensive front put up for this game, and also our linebackers too, because I saw Overshown all over the field with tackles. I honestly don't know how many tackles he had, but I saw him definitely in a lot of plays. They tried to run, I think, right at our strength in our defense a couple of times, and they just got stalemated. So, I'm glad that we did what we were supposed to do, and we did it in convincing fashion. With that said, there was a lot that can be coached up off of this game. I mean, even Sam Ehlinger, how great he was today, and he was very good. There's that one play.
Historic day for Sam Ehlinger.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the greatest half statistically a UT quarterback
430 yards in the first half, almost basically. But there was that one play on the out route to, was it Schuler? I don't remember, but he forced it. He turned his back to the defense, which is a
Tariq
no-no.
Black.
It was Tariq Black? Okay.
It was Tariq Black, and that was the same play Black fumbled.
Yes, right on the sideline. Yeah, Tariq Black made a great catch, but that could have easily, with better competition, pick six.
Yes.
So, yes. I mean, that's something that, you could go to the film and you say, hey, that cannot happen. You cannot do that. You cannot get happy feet like that, turn your back, and then just try to throw your wide receiver open.
That particular play, they won on skill level. Mm-hmm. I agree with you. But in terms of overall accuracy, precision, and timing, I thought Sam was very on point today. Mm-hmm. And his command, especially being in a different offense, the command on tempo was very good. The command with the RPO stuff, because they here's my thing. I always say vanilla mindset. We were talking about that in the preview. Like, oh, we want to run a vanilla offense, not show too much. You can still run your base stuff and be dominant against teams like this. You should, right? And I didn't see anything crazy. Now, Texas did run a reverse at one point, right, with Jordan Whittington.
Yeah.
We'll get to him in a second. But they ran their base stuff, but they were so efficient with it. And it seemed like, hey, the emphasis was let's get our athletes the ball in space. And I felt like Sam Ehlinger was just a distributor of the football. Equal opportunity offense. If we got to mix in tempo, let's do it. If we got to slow things down, make a couple reads, make a couple checks, they will do that. The formation variety that we saw them 11 personnel, 12 personnel, bunch. They ran trips a couple of times, just, few motion opportunities. It just seemed like we're running a 21st century Big 12 offense. Mm-hmm. And it was exciting just from that standpoint. Again, regardless of the competition. But just seeing them operate that pace. Sam, yeah, he has to clean up some of those little bitty things. But overall, like his accuracy, the ball, I mean, just the strong nature of the football coming out of his hands, tight spirals, looking clean down the field, leading guys. All of this, I would leave the game extremely encouraged with, what we saw in our throw game stuff today.
Yeah, one other negative I had, I think it was on his last drive. He was scrambling and he took a hit. I don't want to see him take an unnecessary hit when we're up for, what was it, 45-3 at that point. Mm-hmm. So that's the only negative on him. Otherwise, I thought he was great. He did what he needed to do and more. So, and one thing I want to call out too is Yurcich didn't slow up. That's what I was extremely happy to see. And it wasn't, when we put in our backups, Casey Thompson's throwing fade routes, and on that fade route, it was to Brennan Eagles, which actually we think he needed that, as a confidence builder, especially him dropping from first team last year.
And he struggled early in the game today. There's no sugarcoating. When Brennan Eagles got in there with the ones and they got him in the rotation, he struggled today.
Yeah, especially when they targeted him. They targeted him 4 times, and and a couple of them were just miscommunications between Sam and him on what route they're supposed to run. And like I said, just seeing yourself catch the ball.
Yes,
it changes your whole mindset about that.
Yes, that was a huge confidence builder, and it's something that we've seen Brennan do before, where he makes one of those unbelievably athletic plays and he goes up over the defender. deep ball, Casey Thompson's first, I think, touchdown pass as a Texas Longhorn, and just building up that confidence. There's so many encouraging things, man. I do leave this game excited because we saw them call plays for the tight ends. And it wasn't just like some random seam route where we got like Andrew Beck wide open a couple years ago, right? Like we were just completely surprised people. But like it just seemed like it was genuinely in the flow of the offense. Like, hey, K Brewer's wide open. This is something we schemed for him. They had a few nice little rollouts where they would go, but like their stuff where they would move the pocket seemed better layered than we've seen it in previous years. And there was always a safety valve. Like, okay, stuff's covered downfield. I got K Brewer for 8 yards, and he's coming across the middle. We always had drag routes coming. Tariq Black scored on a drag route later in the game. And I pointed that out in the red zone to you when we were watching it. I'm like, damn, like that's typically where we'd run the ball a couple times at around the 10, 8 yard line. Nope, double drags. This dude's not going to run across the field and stay with them the whole time. So I was really impressed just with, like you just said, the aggressiveness of an offensive coordinator. And I don't know why it's taken us so long to get somebody like that in here for us. I
And
really
not only
don't.
just the aggressiveness, but also the distribution too. The numbers called. I mean, if I count it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 different players had multiple receptions. Do you think we probably ever had that last year or the last like 5 years? 9 players with multiple receptions like that.
Yeah.
So I get that we had it a bunch in mop up time, but that's the thing, we weren't getting to the mop up time.
No.
And we got there this time, which that's the encouraging thing about this game. Yes, we get it. It's UTEP. We knew we were supposed to do
Grain
it,
of salt. Right.
but we did it. We still had to do it. I mean, that's why you have to play the game. I mean, look at what happened to Iowa State and Kansas State. So
I agree. I would probably argue, and this is without even just off the top of my head, I'd probably argue UTEP's the least talented team we've faced in the Tom Herman era. I felt that way watching them before the game. Just thinking about all the teams we've played over the last. I mean, I think the Rice team we played last year was better than these guys. But again, the execution, and also, so I want to move on to this because this goes for offense and defense with Chris Asher's unit. The hustle to the football, and the fact that no matter what group was in the game, if I genuinely felt like dudes knew what they were doing. Now how well they executed, that's another story, right? But at least I felt like, oh, there's not like some communication lapse or somebody's clueless. And I want to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff for that. You can tell, especially those of us who have a good football eye, you can tell when somebody's in a game and they don't know what's going on, or they're extremely limited in what they're being asked to do, and then they freak out once something goes out of picture. And I always felt like even late in the game at mop-up duty, our young guys like Xavier Alford and Jade Barron and whoever else you want to name, right? They're flying around playing football, right? I understand they're not, Chris Adamore and Josh Thompson, who in my opinion was the defensive MVP of today's game. Josh Thompson was incredible for a myriad of reasons. But even when younger guys got in, they were competent. Like Alfred Collins, who we have as a breakout player, but he gets in there and gets a sack, right? And he's showing why he was the recruit he was. It goes a long way for confidence. Mark, I can't tell you enough how big a deal it is for Marcus Washington to get a touchdown. I know he had a bad drop today, but the touchdown that he had, right? That's what we saw in the U.S. Army All-American game when he came out of Missouri. So featuring people like this. We just had a transfer come in, Brennan Schuler, and he comes in, catches 2 balls, runs off for a touchdown, and just the distribution, like you said, and on both sides. They were rotating a lot of people. Kenyatta Watson getting a lot of valuable reps. Got beat early in the game. Hey, let's coach him up. Next time, fight through. Stay on that hip. Fights through. Gets a pass breakup. So I am I'm very, very encouraged with the effort.
So about the defensive backs that you're talking about, that even with the younger guys, you felt comfortable. You didn't see the normal miscommunication and the in-game jitters for new to the sport, new to college
Sure.
football, and you didn't see blown assignments, which that's backing up your crediting it to the coaching. When it was refreshing. Once again, I know it's UTEP, but it's refreshing to see that because the past couple of years, it doesn't matter. We had at least one play a game where someone would get burnt, and we didn't see
And
that
they're
today.
doing this to each other.
Yeah,
Like, was that me or
yeah,
like? And when you see that happen all the time, that's the coaching, right? Because whatever we're communicating from the sideline to you, to what we worked on in practice, to what we prepared you for in the film room, something's lost in translation, right? And
right.
I just feel like, and I know the coverages, we want to talk about vanilla. The defense was really vanilla. They didn't, and that's maybe another thing. Hey, we felt like we're going to help you guys a little bit more. Yeah, there were times where the corners were on an island. They had to make a football and coverage. That's college football. You're going to have to do that. But there are also times, hey, we're going to protect guys on the inside and let them play the football. Like Court J Quiz, and I tweeted this, come in there playing linebacker, started over Jawan Mitchell today at middle linebacker, and was protected and played great. Played within the hash marks and was flying around. I believe he had what? He had 5 tackles today, 1 tackle for a loss, and picked up to me where he left off in the Alamo Bowl. And no one was asked to like do too much. Overshown was flying around free. Keandre Colburn was sucking up blocks. Tavondre Sweat was actually getting to the edge a few times. Moro Jomo, he almost had a sack, but he grabbed the face mask on accident. But they were being feisty.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm just – when you see guys, they felt like a unit. They felt like they knew what they were doing. And I think that will go a long way. And the other thing, too, we saw the defensive line. They ran a lot more stunts with 4-man.
Mm-hmm.
I know Chris Ash has heaters, and they'll save those.
Yeah, we didn't see many
No.
blitzes
They did send more of a run blitz on a 3rd and 2, and
on the
Deshaun
corner.
Jameson,
Yeah.
and Deshaun Jameson came in there and made a great play and got a tackle for loss. Anthony Cook came in and did a great job in contain at times, and he got a tackle for loss. Guys are going to make plays. Like Chris Adamora is going to have a tough job because he's going to have to deal with a lot of really, really good slot guys. And even a guy like Jacob Cowing on UTEP today won a few of those matchups. But keep it in front of you. Don't freak out. We live to the next play. And, we even in the game got a turnover with Josh Thompson getting the interception. So making teams pay for their mistakes and being efficient on offense. What else do we want to touch on? Kai Money, the walk on, right? And getting out there. He caught 4 balls today. He caught a touchdown. We saw the team just through the roof excited for him. I think that was a really, really cool moment. Again, you talk about somebody in the game. I was watching Sam when I got back on LHN real quick, and he was like, yeah, the dude always knows what he's doing. It's easy to trust him. I don't have a problem. I'm not going to hesitate throwing a ball to somebody when they're where they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of people being where they're supposed to be, I got some flack. Actually, we as a channel got some flack about what we were talking about Josh Moore and people saying, they don't see it yet and blah, blah, blah. But one of the things I've always said is, like, if the coaches keep banging on something it's for a reason. And when you fight like that, and Joshua Moore at some point was the kid that kept the coaches up at night. Let's be real. But he's also the reason why they kept him at night was because they're fighting for him. And he's so talented. And I've talked to people about his route running ability. Where we were sitting, we almost had like an all 22 view. The guy's getting open immediately, Tran. The ball is snapped, right? And he immediately has 5 yards of separation from whoever was covering him. Like you said, it's UTEP. They're not very good. But you can tell with technique, the head movement, all that type of stuff. He's just fluid. He's just a smooth operator out there, wide receiver. And I loved where they were lining people up. He was lining up inside and out. They didn't discriminate on where people were lining up.
Yeah, no.
I'm excited.
I'm extremely excited. If we're touching on, I don't want to go into too many negatives because we haven't watched the tape again. But
Yeah,
one other negative is I honestly don't think run blocking was that great today.
I agree with
Um,
that.
I think we should have dominated them more in the trenches, but we didn't have a bad day. I mean, we did rush for 208 yards, so I mean, by no means is that a bad day. But I think with Keontae only having 44, with Roshan only having 38, and Bijan having only 38. Our second leading rusher was Malcolm Epps on that little little backwards pass from
Malcolm Epps.
yeah,
Who had that in Vegas? Malcolm Epps is our second leading rusher
yeah,
for 40 yards today.
yeah,
That's random.
yeah.
I will say, with the run game, actually, I don't want to say it. I want to ask you a question. Do you think that's because they were so heavy by committee today that it was kind of difficult for any of the three guys to establish a good rhythm, or do you put it more on the offensive line?
Mm. I think we were trying to show some tape because most of the times that I was seeing them actually run up their plays was up the right side, and everyone knows that that's our weakest side. I was wondering if they're just trying to show some tape that hey, we will run it up on
Yeah,
the right side. To
yeah.
tell you the truth, and that's probably a big reason why the average yards per carry weren't that high. Roshan was at 4.8. You'll take that all day, every day because it's the first down every.
It's not
But
high. It's not high
it's
enough for
not
UTEP.
it's not 6 to 7 that you want against UTEP. But I do think that it was by design because I didn't see many times that we ran up the left side, honestly.
Well, also to that point, and even with Bijan, and it was great to see him make his debut today, and just see him out there with the ones, and the coaching staff wasn't hesitant to put him on the field. It wasn't one of those things where we were waiting till almost the end of the first half for him to get a touch.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, his first few carries, he mustered. So outside of the 30-yard run, he had 8 yards combined, right? So things we got to work on. I think some of that was blocking, honestly, because it was like, hey, when you go back and look at the film, how much were you able to get out? How much were you able to squeeze out of that, right? But what we did get to see is that explosiveness when he put his foot down, and it was more, I believe, like a more of an outside zone concept.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got squared up and his shoulder pads upfield. He was electric, right? And that's what you want to see. I don't think there was any negatives with the running backs. It was just very, to me, I think, and that's why I asked you that question. I think it was just difficult to establish rhythm, even for Roshan. He would have a couple good carries, and then he's being subbed out. Keontae comes in. Keontae would have a couple decent carries. He's being subbed out, and I get it. They're trying to feed guys and different things like that. But eventually, I think when they play against some of the better teams, Stan Drayton and them are going to have to go with a hot hand and ride it a little bit. I don't think you'll be able to distribute snaps the way at least you can right now with the wide receivers. I also understand where they are with the wide receivers because these guys do seem close in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what they can do. Like Tariq Black was outstanding today. Seemed to have a very good rapport with Sam, even on some of the deep out stuff that they did. But for Brendan Schuler to be here, 3 weeks, and already being, kind of up to speed on what we're doing, how we're using the tight ends. There's so many people we're spreading the ball around to that, it is going to be interesting statistically snaps played to look at when we go into the data. But like you said, and guys, by the way, we're going to have a more extensive conversation about this with you. We'll have a live chat. It's just really late. We got back and we're just riding off of what we saw at the game. So there's a couple more things I want to get into, and then we're going to talk about our experience at the game itself. I want to talk about special teams real quick because there were some things I really liked and some things I really disliked. So I'll let you touch on the kicking game first.
I mean, it wasn't what we expected. I mean, he was 1 for 2, nailed all his extra points. But the miss, I feel it was a pretty bad miss. It didn't look good on him. I mean, it's a 43-yarder. You want to be the all Big 12 kicker. You want to be an NFL kicker. You got to hit those.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
That
it's not
consistency
like it
has
was
to be there.
yeah. Well, it's not like it was a momentum shift or anything like
No.
that. But you need to hit that. I mean, I think he nailed a 37 yarder after that. Perfect. But I'll give it a C. His performance a C if I had to grade it. I did really like his kickoffs. The first one I kind of bit my tongue because
Because we did the directional kick.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, and then it actually worked out.
It worked out
to our favor.
They forced the fumble on. Yeah.
Yeah, but then after that, I think they just wanted it just to see how they'd react to it, and then afterwards they're booting it. I don't think they returned another kick the rest of the game, and we were kicking off a lot.
Shout out to Jay Boulware. So two things to that point. The directional kick, they forced the fumble. The guy recovered on UTEP and got out of bounds, but they still held him within the 20-yard line. Like, I like that because
field position.
That is, from a field position standpoint, like, okay, we're going to try to back these guys up, but at least we're going to look like we know what we're doing. The way the way that they covered the kick, the way they walled off everything was much better than we've seen in the past when they've tried directional kicks. I was really encouraged by that. The other thing is the punt return with Deshaun Jameson. He houses it. Alvonte Woodard got called for blocking the back, which was unfortunate because he wiped off a touchdown, but it clearly impacted the play. But the punt return unit, just seeing them out there and seeing how explosive we know Deshaun is, that was really cool. And I still mark that as a positive, even though we had the penalty, chalk that more up to rust and things we're dealing with. And like you said, those are things, that's an easy thing they can pull Avante aside and get corrected. And that's the thing, too. All the mistakes we saw from a penalty standpoint were people going 100 miles an hour. Even the Vernon Broughton one at the end of the game where he hit the guy out of bounds. At least he's trying to get to the quarterback. Like, I'm not going to lose my everything as a coach in those situations. It really, really not. I want people flying. And even when we're up by 50, dudes are out there trying to get a tackle, trying to get whatever they can. So that's encouraging. The punt game was disappointing to me. And I've been hard on Ryan Bushevsky. The first punt was almost a shank. It didn't even go 40 yards. And I know, we were scoring a lot. But we want to, again, it's just being crisp, right? When you get the opportunity, ready when called upon. And that's still a concern for me, is our punt game. The ball doesn't seem coming off his foot clean. He only got 2 attempts to kick today. The second punt was a little bit better. But I don't see that boot there, man. And I don't know what it is because I've seen him boot it before. But that does seem to be – that's a concern for me right now. It's just the overall – punt game. Kick game, at least Dicker's clutch. It's just him. I think he just loses focus sometimes and just shanks one. But when it matters, when we need it, I do trust him, right?
Yeah, he's won 3 games for us.
Yes, I trust him. I'm not worried about that. But the punt stuff is still a concern for me.
No, yeah, I agree. I do think the second one was better, and then the one thing you do want to call out about it is the coverage on it. So I think it was Tyler Owens that made that
great
tackle.
Point.
So I mean,
and he was the gunner on that play.
He did have enough hang time on the second one just to make it where there was no gain. So hopefully that's not the way his season is going to go. Good one, bad one. Good one, bad one. Hopefully, it starts just coming off his foot a lot better.
The other thing I want to touch on with this game in particular before we move on to our fan experience, Casey Thompson and Hudson Card getting the opportunity. We talked about
that's important.
Duty.
It's just, it was so important.
I agree.
And it's important that they ran the ball the first time and then they threw 3 times in a row. I like that. They let him. We got to see a little bit of what we have behind Sam if something happened bad. And the ball came off his hand very well. He should have been 3 for 3 to start the game, but there was who had the drop? There was someone
Marcus,
who had a drop.
Marcus had a bad drop.
But then Marcus deep out.
Yeah, but Yeah, but Marcus did make up for it with a very nice
Touchdown.
touchdown
Yeah.
catch later in the game, and he made up for that. Marcus played a lot today too. Made some
Hmm.
nice catches, but again, consistency with hands. Gotta catch the football, hold on to those. And a couple guys that had a couple drops today, but again, nothing that's not correctable. But Casey, I think one of the things that a lot of people have been pointing this out, his command. There wasn't a drop off in terms of like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I like the fact that he only had one rushing attempt for 9 yards, but it was a quarterback draw. It was a design quarterback run. He never was freaking out. His accuracy is not where Sam's is right now. I mean, just there was one ball where, a couple balls that got away from him and sailed a little bit. Um, but I don't feel uncomfortable, like you said, if he were have to play extended time. I feel like we would be in good hands, and there's some things that he would bring to the offense that are positives. Hudson Card was in there with the backup offensive lineman. Isaiah Hookfin was in there at that point. Andre Carrick got to play.
Hmm.
A lot of different guys getting snaps, mostly walk-on type wide receivers, and he moved the ball. He moved the ball,
Yeah, he did.
and I know they didn't get a touchdown because Jerry's grandson dropped it, but I
It
love
was
Paxton
great.
Anderson. It was a
It
good
was
throw
great.
though.
Great. It was where it needed to be.
He put in the only place that Paxton could have tried to make a play, right? So those are things, and you can already with that, you can see why Hudson Card is on Casey Thompson's ass and for reps. That's good. That competition keeps them sharp, and his mobility was also very very nice to see. So I just wanted to give those guys credit for being prepared and not looking like they were out of place once they got in the game.
Hmm.
After Sam again had an historic day throwing the football, and want to see more of it moving forward. Now let's end the video here. We both went to the game today, and it was a very very different experience from what we've ever experienced at DKR. I'll let you go first, just with your overall impressions. Good, bad, ugly, with the overall fan experience of today.
I mean, where do I start? uh, it was weird, honestly. Uh, the, there was definitely a lot more bad than there was good. I really it's really hard for a team to get up for the home field advantage, especially when it's going to be a close game. That's home field advantage when it's a third and 6 and the crowd is screaming loud, to try to screw up the timing or the cadence of the quarterback, or you're not going to get that here. And it's eerily quiet, and it's just really strange. The good, uh, the fact that you don't have to wait for the bathroom or wait for any lines or anything like that. You could leave whenever you want. You can move around if you need to, things like that. But as far as the game, it's just awkward. It was awkward to me. That's the best word I can think of it.
It did feel so. I see pumped in crowd noise when I watch Major League Baseball and even in the NBA bubble. I think the pumped in crowd noise is different when you're in person.
Hmm.
And you can kind of like, oh, it's third down. And not that people aren't excited. I don't want to say that we were there and people were stiffs. Like people were
Hmm.
trying to get loud and we're actually, for those that were there, were, from what I could see, we're engaged, very much so. The thing though is you can only be so loud when you're so far apart from everyone and everyone is all over the stadium, right? And from a standpoint of, the next person is 2 rows or 3 rows away, or a group of people, I should say, because you're kind of sitting in pockets.
Yeah.
So it's tough to have that energy, to draft on that energy, like you said, on those third down plays. And it definitely felt like we were at a showcase, like an AAU type of showcase. Now, I will give a lot of credit to Chris Del Conte and the whole. It's no fault of their own, and everything I feel like we're highlighting are things that a lot of schools all have to deal with. And not these to me aren't problems exclusive to DKR. but just more cognizant of where we are at playing football during COVID. And it's really just cool just to actually see football and be
Yeah.
there. But
It doesn't feel
having
like a normal college game.
so I'm glad you said it doesn't feel like a normal college game. So one of the biggest things is, and I think they'll have this in the future, but the band wasn't there.
Mhm.
So now it doesn't feel like a college game at all. It's just the DJ, right? And then, whether it was the music songs before the game or after the game, there's no so the worst part, not the worst part, but one of the bad parts for me was like the halftime, right? Because normally you'll have, and I know some people are big bands, some people aren't, but the pageantry of college, right? Having the band out there, having the dance team and all those things, and just seeing it a student-led atmosphere, that's gone, right? So they were having, and it seemed to me like they're still working on the audio and the acoustics in the stadium however they can. The sound system's still a little shoddy because we really couldn't hear the musicians they were trying to feature, but they're making an effort. They're trying to give us something, right? So that was a little off to me, just not having any type of band there and getting that push, that adrenaline push when you need it. I think that could, like you said, be an issue. But again, if we're going on the road, this is something else that wherever we go,
It's going to be like that.
we're going to go to Lubbock, right? In a couple weeks. I mean, what are we going to deal with there? It's not going to be fake noise again. You guys already heard fake noise, So it's interesting. I love the bathroom situation. I love being able to go to a concession stand and get a drink during a TV timeout and not missing a single snap. It's awesome. I give a lot of credit to the staff, all the police officers, everybody that was there.
I do love the fact that
the
we
SG
got home
folks.
at 11:30 as opposed to like now. So
Yeah. No, it was smooth. Everything that they could possibly do to give us a game day experience, they did. It's just when you have such a minimal amount of people there, it's not the same experience. And they were enforcing mask policy all over. It wasn't as stringent when you were at your seat of somebody staying over you like that. There were a few times they reminded and just wanted to be respectful of everyone, but it wasn't uncomfortable in that sense, I would say. But just things to be mindful of going to the game. The temperature was good, so it wasn't like we were sweating through a bunch of masks or anything like that. I know that was a concern before, but for those of you who are considering attending a game or anything like that, I will say this is a positive. I felt safe.
Yeah.
They had hand sanitization stations all over. You just go straight to your seat. There's no extracurriculars going on, right? Like you typically have Bevo Boulevard, all those type of things. You just go straight to where you're supposed to be. We have a lot of staff here to help you out. Other than that, you're safe and enjoy the game. So, Tran, good start, right? We checked a lot of boxes today, and I think this team is taking it seriously. I hope they're ready to carry the bag for the Big 12 because some of our fellow conference members are not. I'll just leave it at that. So, guys, let us know in the comments. I know this is a late video, but we were just excited to share with y'all as soon as we got back home. We will have a live coming later this week. Tran, any final thoughts or anything else you wanted to touch on before we wrap?
No, it was a good start to the season. Hopefully it's a lot more of this and they build on it. So.
Absolutely. Guys, we appreciate you as always. Also, shout out to Dodge Bulal, who we saw at the game today. Dodge, we love you. Thank you for coming up to us. Guys, horns always up. Peace.